Man, I'm having so much fun. This is a $1.6 trillion industry. I'm talking about the food and beverage space. If you're not having fun, you're in the wrong place. Yes, it's hard work, but my gosh, the companies, the brands, the flavors, the experiences, the missions, it's fantastic. But some of the brands are different, better, and special. They're the ones who are able to really compete and vie for customer loyalty. Look, I know you want to make your brand different, better, and special. I know you yourself want to be different, better, and special. That's my mission. That's why you're here. Join me on this journey as I interview CEOs and founders from all the different companies within the food and beverage industry so we can discover what they're doing, so we can take that information back, digest it, and become better ourselves, and to help our companies take on different strategies, pick the right technology, pick the right partners, and of course, you got to have great tasting food. You got to have great tasting beverages. Packaged goods. If it doesn't taste good, you're lost. I'm sorry. You're going to lose millions. If you're new here, take the 5-episode challenge. Go back, pick out some brands, some CEOs, some topics. If you love the content, subscribe. You're going to find it on every podcast platform once or twice a week. But I also publish them on LinkedIn because that's where we kind of hang out. So when you see it on LinkedIn, stop by, make a comment, share it back into your food and beverage network. I would appreciate it. The brands would appreciate it. To all my loyal listeners, thank you so much. You guys are awesome. Thank you for being with me on this journey. Thanks for coming along on this mission for the past 2 years. If you are considering a strategic job change, message me. Let's have a confidential conversation. If your brand is growing and you need to attract experts, you also need to contact me because I have created a different, better, and special recruiting system. I promise you, no other search firm in America is doing that. Who am I? I'm Tony Moore. I'm an expert food and beverage headhunter, semi-professional podcaster, and I'm here each and every week. Stay tuned for this week's episode. Welcome to Winning at Work, everybody. I'm Tony Moore, your host. And I tell you what, I have really enjoyed on this journey with this podcast, meeting new companies and entrepreneurs and just all this startup craze that we're really experiencing right now coming out of COVID, is that we're seeing a new phase of disruption coming. And people want to know, like, what's next? And this is what we're going to be looking at today. We have a really interesting corporate food tech company that I've been recently introduced to. It's a technology-enabled platform. And I have with me Jeff Grass. He's the CEO and co-founder of Try Hungry. And I have Jon Ebner. He's the market leader for New York City, the world's largest city. We're going to see how these two gentlemen are disrupting a really interesting category that I had not really thought about that much. We're talking about a $100 billion office catering space that they have developed. An app I was reading is kind of clever. It's kind of like Tinder for chefs, that they can kind of pick catering gigs that they want to be part of. And I guess swipe left, swipe right, pick your favorite. And they're now in 11 cities. They've raised a lot of money. Their latest city they opened was Nashville, Tennessee. And they've got notable investors such as Jay-Z, Kevin Hart, other NFL players. This is just a really exciting conversation we're going to have today. So I'm super excited to welcome in both of you guys. Thank you so much for joining. Jeff and Jon, how are you guys?
Doing great. Thanks for having us, Tony. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Tony. This is great.
This is just kind of a fascinating topic that here we are. We're kind of out of the pandemic now, and people are going back to the offices. People want to eat better. We got this huge trend, and lo and behold, Jeff, you had this idea with some other gentlemen, right? What's the origin story here? How did you even create this? How did it come to be?
Yeah. Thanks, Tony. Well, we started Hungry about 5 years ago, and it was really born out of an experience that myself and my two co-founders had at our previous company. Our company was in a food desert, and not a lot of good options around. And and started kicking around this idea of, wouldn't it be cool if we could tap into local cooks, local chefs to feed office workers? And that really, led to this idea of creating a platform that connects, corporate America with some of the best, local chefs and restaurants in the area. It was really also born out of, I think, an observation that, like as you mentioned, the corporate catering food space has really grown exponentially. It's a gigantic industry, yet it's entirely, served by restaurants and traditional caterers, neither of whom were ever designed around providing food for an office. And so there's a lot of mismatch in capabilities versus needs, a lot of friction that's created, and it's just it's ripe for change.
I love that you said it. It kind of started out of a food desert. I think that's where our most ideas come from, don't they? There's a personal need that you want to satisfy. And Jeff, listen, I think I was going through your background, and I know we don't have time to go through all of that, but coming out of your Harvard MBA, you've spent a good deal of your time in consulting and technology. So it really seems to me that you were in the right place at the right time with your ability to create SaaS platforms. You understood the ability to connect companies and strategies. I imagine that must have played a big part in your desire to start something like this.
Yeah. Well, it was a Wharton MBA, but versus Harvard.
Did I just gab that? I can't even go 3 minutes.
But to your point, this is the fourth venture capital backed company I've co-founded and led. So Hungry has a lot of similarities in terms of being a platform, kind of B2C, tech enabled service. So leveraging a lot of the learnings, both about go to market, but also about team and culture. And happy to chat about that if that's helpful. But no, really excited about Hungry. It's been an incredible journey. We're growing like a rocket ship. Obviously, when the pandemic hit, that was a challenging moment for everybody in the corporate food space. But we've come out bigger and better and stronger than ever before, and are really excited about where we are today.
Jon, you must feel like you are literally in the catbird seat. You're in the world's largest city. Everyone thinks of great food and dining and beverage opportunities. So what is your strategy? How do you even go about being a market leader in such a large city? How do you go to market? What's your strategy? How do you kind of bring in these people to your platform?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, thanks so much, Tony. This is a lot of fun. And
it's a ton of fun. I can't wait to hear how you guys work together to solve these problems.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, they make it really easy when you're working with a company that has the right products and the right team. Fortunately, I've been in this space for a little while now, and I've worked with a couple other competitors. And with Hungry, during the pandemic, I was looking to get away from food, to be honest. I love food. I have a 4-year-old now, and he takes after me. Kid's a big fan of food. We just took him to the Poconos this weekend, and we said, "What was your favorite part?" And he said, "The food." So it's in the genes.
It's in his stomach. Exactly.
Yeah. And then in regards to New York, so, we've been here a while, and, I brought over a bunch of my team from my previous company. And I just feel really blessed, to be honest. It's just a great team, great product, great culture. And the difference with Hungry, I've never worked with a company that connected with chefs, as Jeff mentioned. It was always restaurants. It was always a marketplace for mom and pop shops, which really, as Jeff mentioned, aren't really set up for this type of thing. So that's one value add. The other thing, which I've never seen before until Hungry, is their ability to handle the delivery from A to Z. So we have catering captains, as they're called here at Hungry. And ultimately what we do is we have a chef prepare the food. One of our captains leaves our hub, goes over to the chef, is able to see the food, tempt the food, see if there's anything missing, have a checklist, then put it in their vehicle in a Hungry uniform, show up to the client, set up the food, even hang out if they need, and then clean up the food. I've never had access A to Z like that, and it just makes my job a whole lot easier.
Well, I just love the fact that you're solving multiple problems, right? When you're in business, you better be solving a problem. And the bigger the problem, the bigger the solution, and hopefully the bigger the market you have. It looks like a huge market. And I would think for a chef, what are they good at? It's not building an online application, right? Not going out and doing the business development and bringing all the customers in. So I think you've solved a really big problem for your professional chefs. Let them do what they do best.
Yeah, it's really a great partnership. For chefs, where Hungry is very much a business in a box. We, like you said, we do all the sales, the marketing, the client support, the delivery, the logistics, the payment collections. So it really allows chefs to focus on their passion, be able to cook great food, and being a professional chef. Most go down that path because it's their passion. It's what they love to do, but it's a challenging career path. It's typically, not highly paid. It's in, the back of a restaurant, working nights and weekends. And so what's really, I think, exciting about Hungry is how it really helps empower, chef entrepreneurship. It provides, much more income potential. It's much more lifestyle friendly and flexible, so they can kind of choose when they want to work, when they don't want to work.
Oh, that's interesting. So they can flex, right? So they can be working with you guys and still have another gig?
Yeah. Sometimes this is their side hustle to start, and then as the business rolls in, it becomes their full-time, profession. We work really hard to bring the chef's story into the office as well, to kind of make it more of a food experience for the guests that are eating the food. And so, the guests love it because it's really cool to know that, today we're having, food prepared by, Will Smith's former personal chef, or, the former executive chef of the Taj Mahal in India. So you get, more of a story around it. But from a chef's perspective, they're building a brand, they're building a following. Clients that like them want to use them over and over again. So it's really a real positive marketplace model where both sides, really are much, much better off.
What's really cool about the situation with handling delivery is, not only do we work with chefs, we also work with, in New York, if I'm sure you've heard of Katz's Deli and places like that. We have the opportunity to work with these big brands as well. So you can get something, farm to table from a chef, a commercial kitchen. And then the next day you're getting something from, a top local restaurant in the area. But speaking to the commercial kitchens, as Jeff was speaking, one of the cooler things for me in my job is we work with a lot of these commercial kitchens that rent out space to up and coming chefs. I was just at a kitchen the other week, and, it was a husband and wife. One guy was from Italy off the boat, and he's making us pasta fresh, and, he's trying to build a business. Now, part of my job, and Jeff, thank you so much for paying for me to eat fresh pasta. I mean, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. But it's really cool because you get to see them from the very beginning. And, like their whole family's in there. I remember, their kid was on site that day, and you're just watching these people do what they love and building a business, and you get to see the whole journey. That's I think one of the coolest parts for sure.
Well, that's fascinating because we have obviously the big trend in virtual and ghost kitchens. So in a lot of ways, this is kind of like a reverse, right? Where the chef can come in and use someone else's commercial kitchen. Am I on track with that?
Yeah. So the chefs many times are leveraging, these incubator kitchens, these ghost kitchens. When we started Hungry, they were kind of below the radar screen. A lot of food truck operators will leverage them. Local purveyors of foodstuffs you might find in a Whole Foods or something. But they've definitely become much more in the news. A lot of investment in ghost kitchens has happened over the last few years. A lot on the B2C, food delivery side as well. But yeah, the economics are just far better than sourcing food out of a retail establishment with high retail rents and lots of overhead. And so it makes the economics very favorable for the chefs and for our clients.
I think entrepreneurs tune in because they want to learn how people start businesses up. What are the problems, the challenges? And I'm thinking, Jeff, you've gone through so many of these. So can you walk us through a little bit, just, how did you spin this up from idea to revenue? And just maybe you can shed some light on this process.
Yeah. Well, we utilize a marketplace model. So as I mentioned, you have chefs and restaurants on one side, there's the supply side, and then corporate America, all these clients are on the demand side. So those are always challenging models to get going, right? You've got to get both sides, kind of working, and it's got to add value to both sides. Our model provides a lot of inherent advantages, tremendous variety. You pick and choose across different chefs and restaurants every day, so you never get bored, very high food quality. We own, as Jon mentioned, the delivery process, so it's very reliable, provide VIP level service. So a lot of the core value drivers for our clients, we sort of hit really well. The challenge is that we're partnering with chefs that cook out of different kitchens. They have to be licensed commercial kitchens, but different kitchens, different restaurants all across a market. And so how do you coordinate that? How do you make that ultra reliable, very scalable, very cost efficient? And so, when we first started, it was like some of the most complex Google spreadsheets in the world, that we were using, and lots of phone calls. But we've really invested, literally millions, tens of millions of dollars in building an advanced logistics platform, a very robust technology platform we call the Hungry Operating System that manages that, allows us to stay, very much in sync with our chefs, with our clients, with our captains. And so I'd say that was one of the bigger challenges is, how do you, cool idea, but how do you manage this in a really effective way? And so the first couple of years was just heavy investment in tech to just, be able to build this in a way that we could scale it.
Well, you mentioned you making an investment in technology. I talked to a lot of food and beverage brands, and the number one thing most of them want is investment.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk a little bit about how you went about this process? Obviously, you've got some big name people and some splashy, celebrity endorsements. But practically speaking, what's a good strategy for people who need to go out and do some fundraising? And then secondly, once you have the money, how do you go about spending it? Making those wise choices.
Yeah. Well, we've always followed a philosophy of trying to be extremely capital efficient. We want to build, a good business. It's not about, raising billions of dollars in capital to kind of, try to create it. When we start off, it's very much, leveraging friends and family, kind of the small, what are typically called angel investors, is how we started, raised a couple rounds of angel money or a couple tranches of angel money to just really, again, prove the concept, build it in DC. Washington, DC is where we founded the company. And then also expand to our first market to Philadelphia to prove it could go to a different market and run the business effectively. From there, that really set us up. We saw, very fast growth, really great economics. So a lot of what investors are looking for is, a proof of concept, but also, path. What's the revenue ramp? What are the margins? What was the, what are the economics of the business? And then as we raised our A round, we were just really fortunate. We had two venture funds that actually were clients first. Sands Capital Ventures and Motley Fool Ventures here in the DC market had used us originally, just for bringing food to the office. And then they co-led our A round, and Jay-Z and Beyonce's personal chef Brandon Crow, had been an advisor to ours since the early days. He's a brilliant chef, both with catering and restaurant experience. And we were lucky enough to have him, share what we were doing with Jay and the family. And he got really excited about what we're doing and jumped in and helped lead the A round for us as well. So that's how we got, some of the first celebrity, backers in the business as well.
Yeah, I guess once you get that proof of concept down, then it is much easier. It's much like when you try to go to retail, you have to show those category buyers that it's something that people want.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
So, Jon, I'm curious, as you're building a market out, and I look at, again, as New York City as kind of the crown jewel, how do you guys work on adaptability, making changes on the fly? Big problem I hear with a lot of startups have is they have to learn not to chase all the shiny objects. So ideas start coming in. You're getting ideas. Jon, you want to share them with Jeff. So I'm just kind of curious, how do you guys work together, stay on track, and kind of digest all the feedback you get from the field?
First of all, it's right from when I came in, it's a very flat organization. I have Jeff and Shai and Aman's cell phone when I speak to them regularly. We had something on tech this morning. I'm chatting with our tech founder later this morning. So there's that. Also, there's a lot of strategy kind of throughout the country. So there's heads of operations that manages the entire country. We have all these formulas in place where when we're launching a big client in New York, which we're doing right now, we kind of get on a group call with everyone from all different departments, and you just feel the support. We're not hanging out on an island, and New York City is an island by ourselves. We definitely feel like we have the support of the team. And I'm used to working with, my last company, they were in Toronto. DC is a lot closer than Toronto. And speaking to the investment, which you were just talking about, for me, when looking into Hungry, one of the things that I found impressive was not only did they raise money before the pandemic, as my previous company had, I was really shocked to see that they had raised money during the pandemic or close to post-pandemic.
That's a good tell. But you're on the right spot. Food. I mean, let's face it. Food service has definitely come back.
And the way that they also survived, what was amazing is Hungry, I believe, increased revenues over the pandemic. They really pivoted. They started up tripled. Thank you. Yeah. And they started up 2 new businesses kind of out of thin air, a last mile delivery business and a virtual experience business. And they're really well-run businesses. So, coming in, I said, yes, I know food. I've been in this space a long time, but who knows what's going to happen with this pandemic? Maybe another strain comes. So seeing that they had 2 other lines of business that were running smoothly, it just definitely made me feel a lot more comfortable coming in, for sure.
Yeah, Tony, I can add also to your question. I think a lot of it is about just being very customer led. So, like you said, lots of ideas in a startup. There's a million things you can work on. I think the challenge is how do you prioritize, right? And so what do you do first? What's most important? And so we've always tried to build a culture around. I think we have a team that's really, really good at being hyper-focused on the client, what's their needs, what are their challenges, how do we solve them? And so that's really how we've, since day one, have been building, a solution that's designed to, make our clients' lives better and make our chefs' lives better. We're a very purpose-driven company around that. And that tends to just be the guiding light that I think helps force those prioritizations and allows you to, execute, very, very quickly.
Speaking about being client focused, we're dealing with a big financial client, out of the World Trade Center in New York right now. And I think one of the things that they really liked and the way that Hungry thinks, we have a strategy, I think we call it the Iron Dome strategy or something to that effect. And ultimately, we have a plan B ready to go. So for instance, things happen. There's traffic, there's accidents, this and that. If for any reason a chef can't make it to a client on time, we have a local chef in the area that's say 5-10 minutes away that's ready on call at all times.
You got to stand by. You got to back up.
And they were really just like blown away by that.
That's pretty clever.
Yeah, it was. So that type of thing, I just think the way that this company thinks, the fact that they're thinking about if this happens, what's plan B, what's plan C, the operations is it's very impressive. It's very cool.
Well, you talk about the planning. I want to ask you, Jeff, it's interesting. You've made 3 acquisitions. Your most recent is NatureBox. And for those people who are maybe just learning about NatureBox, it's a healthy snack subscription.
Yeah, it's a healthy kind of better for you snacks company. There's a B2C kind of angle that's subscription, but where we're really investing is in more of the direct to office and direct to employees at home, type of solution.
I love that because let's face it, you're outside of lunch. What do you have? You have snacks, and
right.
You don't want to ruin that great lunch by having a Coca-Cola in the afternoon and a bag of M&Ms.
Right.
Sorry, Mars.
Right.
That's probably not what you want after a chef prepared meal. You probably want to have maybe a little sorbet or a little something better.
Exactly. Yeah, and what we're seeing too, again, just being in that theme of being very customer centric and customer led, is that the return to office is challenging, right, for the people in charge. It's when's it going to happen? How many people? How do we get them back? And so what we're seeing is companies are really looking for one partner to help them with all of their food needs. And so whether that's catering, we want to provide breakfast or lunch to encourage the team back. We want to provide a range of snacks and drinks and solutions along those lines. So that was really a big driver for us. And like you said, it's a great lineup. NatureBox has 60 plus SKUs of really high quality, healthy snacks that follows a very specific food philosophy. And then we'll supplement that, complement that with additional variety coming from great local snack makers and snack purveyors. Much like we partner with lots of different chefs.
I think it's amazing because you really are tapping into a marketplace, and there's a whole marketplace of these companies and startups. I think there's a lot of ways you can go with that. That's why I was kind of curious, what do you think the long-term vision is for this platform that you're building? Because obviously you can kind of keep leveraging more and more on it. So what do you think the future might be for that platform?
Yeah, it's a really powerful marketplace model. So, snacks is a big focus of adding and integrating it into the overall offering right now. What we're also doing is expanding geographically. You mentioned, our launch in Nashville. You'll see additional cities, where we launch Hungry, really trying to build kind of a national footprint. So we have many clients that have offices in more than one market. And so, being able to serve them on more of a regional or national level is something that we think can really add, a lot of additional value for them as well.
We haven't even touched on this, and I think it's really important for people to understand this relationship that you've created with Feeding America. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? And also maybe, Jon, maybe you could even touch on, how that resonates with the people that you work with in New York when they find out that you're partnering with a national organization that is tied into all these food banks, and you're providing food. You're actually helping people who are truly hungry.
We are since day one have been very purpose driven. Our core purpose, as I mentioned, is to improve the lives of everyone we touch, but with a special focus on the clients we serve, the chefs we partner with, and giving back in the communities where we operate. From a community perspective, there's two core pillars. One is around environmental sustainability, and so we do lots to really try to have as little of an environmental footprint as we possibly can. The second is around helping fight hunger. So with a name like Hungry, how can you not dedicate yourself? And so we do that through partnerships with local food banks, organizations like Arlington Food Assistance Center, with Feeding America, like you mentioned. Sometimes we do things on our own. We did a 6,000 meal giveaway this time last year in the DC area just to help raise awareness around food insecurity in our country. And in a city as wealthy as Washington DC, there's so many people that still are really food at risk. Yeah, absolutely. And the pandemic's only made that more challenging. So we really believe that it's part of our responsibility as we build a big business is to make sure that we're giving back. So providing a platform for chef entrepreneurship, giving back in the communities where we operate is really core to who we are.
Yeah, I'm happy to add to that. I think it's definitely noticeable that it's within the DNA of the company. Even when we have a tasting in New York and there's some leftover food, the first thought is, there's a lot of homeless people in New York. Like, maybe we can be of service and make somebody's day. And it's good quality food, so it's kind of nice. And then the other thing that I think, and Jeff, I think you forgot to mention in terms of who you touch, it's definitely the employees as well, right? Like we all feel it. So I think like being around a mission-driven company, it just comes through. And when we speak with clients, like sometimes we don't even mention it and it'll just come up in their thing. They just kind of feel that we're in it. They say like, hey, we have leftovers. What do? We mentioned our partnership with Feeding America. I think it's just, today with mission driven, I feel like every company should be mission driven. Everyone should be giving back. So, I'm proud to be part of a company that's doing just that.
But you've got a good strategy, though, where you didn't try to handle that on your own. That's not your core expertise. So you create your partnerships and you let them manage and run the program, and you supply and help them. I think that's a smart way to go. We've had this conversation before, and I think that is the best way. So people out there who want to have a mission-based type company, it's important to have those key strategic relationships so you can focus on really what it is you're doing best. So I'm curious, Jeff, I'm sure you've given a lot of advice over the years. You've probably received a lot of advice. What would you say is some of the best wisdom that you've gotten along the way as an entrepreneur?
Well, that's a big, broad question, Tony.
I know, and I like this because you can go any way you want with it, and I'm off the hook now. I can just stand back and watch you squirm.
I'll hit on three things. So one that I mentioned, which is being just extremely customer focused and centric. So everything you do should start and end with them in mind in terms of what are their problems, what are their needs, what are their unspoken needs, how do you solve those? The second is this being very much my fourth venture backed company. I've really come to appreciate how important team and culture and environment is. Jon just touched on that. A big focus is really around how do we foster the right environment? How do we, really create and, build a culture and a team very intentionally? We have 9 core values that we very much live by. We invest a great deal in personal and professional development of our team, with full-time, sales trainers and hospitality trainers and things like that. Big focus on promoting from within. So a lot of our leadership started in very junior levels, and you just find those rising stars and help develop them quickly. So I think that just helps shape culture in many ways. The last is that we really focus on making decisions quickly. So it's not about sitting around in a conference room and debating over and over again which is the right path. It's about go do it. Let's learn from it. And be very objective about how we did. So we do lots of postmortems. What could we do different? What could we do better? How do we improve? So a little bit of that, kind of concept of continuous improvement, but mixed with a bias towards action and hustle and making things happen quickly, for our clients and our team.
Jon, before I get to you and your answer, I want to unpack something you just said, Jeff. By the way, I love the act, learn, adjust philosophy. That is that's one that I live by, but that just kind of suits my personality too. I like that. But you said you're very brutally honest. You have that objective review system. Is that do you have a program that you you've adopted? I know there's like the Entrepreneur's Operating System, the EOS model. Is there a philosophy that you've brought in to manage that particular feedback? Or is it just kind of an informal, we're just going to sit around and talk about it? Is there more you can add to that? We haven't
instituted one of those, more defined systems, I'd say, but it's very much, I think, part of our DNA. It's very much ingrained into how we operate. So I can't say that we've pulled in sort of an outside operating system, but it's very much become kind of part of who we are. So similar in many respects of some of those things. Yeah.
Well, I mean, once you do it enough times, you kind of build a rhythm and a cadence around how you're going to dissect. Right. How did this new city launch go? Great example. How's Nashville doing? We need to talk through it all. All right, Jon, what do you think? What's been some of the best advice that you have received?
Sure. First of all, I'm a big fan of EOS and traction and all that stuff, and I do see a lot of similarities. So maybe we're just getting it right and getting lucky. I guess best advice that I've gotten. That's a tough one as well.
Look at that. I finally stumped Mr. New York City. It took a few minutes. Best advice is duck when someone's swinging at you. I saw you had a post on LinkedIn where you were in the boxing ring.
Yes. So
a guy was on the mat. Maybe your best advice is watch your chin.
It's interesting. My best advice
is probably over here, Jeff. You better watch out. He's your office linebacker, Terry Tatum.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Keep your left up, right?
Actually, my boxing trainer I trained with 10 years or so lived an amazing life. Actually, passed recently this year, and they had a wonderful memorial for him at Gleason's Gym, which is a famous gym in New York City. But yeah, it's funny you say that. My father was an entrepreneur, and my boxing trainer gave some incredible lessons. And you know what? To honor him, I will go with Darryl Pierre, my boxing trainer. he was like a Buddha, little genius. He didn't even know it. I one time went to him, I was having a hard time, and I went to him to go train, and I'm in the ring, and I'm throwing a combination, and all of a sudden, I go to change direction. He goes, John, what are you doing? And I'm like, what do you mean, Daryl? He's like, you got to stop before you change direction. And all of a sudden, just something in my head, in my, where I was in my life, it was like, I hadn't stopped, right? So especially in New York City, it's go, 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 build, 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 build. I think people forget the power of the pause. Sometimes doing nothing is very, very important, right? We don't take enough breaks or vacation. It's just constantly go. Even to just step back and take a minute and pause before making a decision, sleep on it, any of those things, I would say that's probably some of the most beneficial advice I've been given.
Yeah, that is good advice. That is good advice. Well, I think we could go on and on. There's so much information here to unpack, but I think we're going to have to let people kind of come to us and ask, what more do they want to learn? So let's start with Jeff. What's the best way for people to find with you, connect with you? Where are you on the socials?
Sure. Yeah. Well, you can obviously go to our websites at tryhungry.com, tryhungry.com, or now naturebox.com as well. You can reach out to us directly at hello@tryhungry. You can find us on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on Facebook. We've got a fairly healthy, social media following there.
I bet. And I imagine it's kind of fun too when you get to connect in with these chefs. That's kind of a new little thing, it's right? Awesome. You can start following them on Instagram, right? Hey, I've tried your food, and that's like a total unique experience that most people, I don't know.
Every chef has the coolest backstory. If you ask them, how did you become a chef? Like just hearing it always comes out with such passion and honesty. It's a privilege to be able to work with such talented people and to provide them a platform to be successful and build a business.
A marketplace, a Tinder marketplace for chefs.
No one's used the comparison with Tinder before, Tony. So I'll give you credit there. But
no, I can't listen, Jeff, I wish I could take credit for it. I think it was in the Forbes article about you guys.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah, it's out there. I wish I could take credit. Maybe I'm just going to edit this out. I just made that up. No, I can't.
All good. I like it.
Yeah. I know. You're like, what is this guy doing? Why did I agree to come on with this guy? So, John, what's the best way for people to find you in New York City? I'm sure as your city grows, you're probably hiring, so it might be a good way to get people to come to you as well.
Absolutely. I think LinkedIn is best when it comes to business. And yeah, my philosophy is I'm always hiring because there's always good people and there's always a place for good people.
Music to my ears as a food and beverage headhunter for a national practice. I love the sound of that.
And also, I'm happy to speak with anyone, even if they're not the right fit for this, whether it's on their end or our end. I just think of being of service is very important. And, you build a good network when you're in this business, and especially in New York City.
It's a great approach. If you can squeeze it in, it means so much to someone when they truly are in some kind of a search, when someone just takes a minute or two out just to acknowledge them. So many times they just get broomed. It means a lot. Gentlemen, this has been fantastic. If you're in any of these 11 cities, I recommend you guys go download the app, give it a try, check it out. I know we're going to do it. We've got, we eat every Wednesday in the office. We have a big thing. We bring food in.
All right. We got you covered for next week, Tony.
We're going to try this thing. Absolutely. I wish I'd done it before, but this podcast just kind of popped up. So exciting for me too. We're going to get to find some awesome Atlanta chefs and kind of try you guys out here.
Actually, Tony, I know you're in Atlanta. I think our one of our heads of sales on the East Coast is down there right now, so I can reach out to Rodney Salinas for you.
Excellent. We need the introduction so we know how to get this thing started. And believe me, once we start eating, we'll start talking about it because that's what we do. Talking is apparently second nature for me. Gentlemen, honestly, thank you so much. It's been fantastic. I love meeting another food tech company on a mission, disruption, entrepreneurship, fundraising. There's just so much here. Fantastic episode. I want to just thank you both so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you, Tony. This is great. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Tony. Appreciate it.